Yeah, Plaistow Patricia is about drugs, and it's about. Well, I knew some sad little junkie boys and girls in the early '60s. One girl died when she was 17 of heroin, and I always hated it. And Plaistow Patricia manages at least to survive. She meets a rich Chinese person in the East End, and she's got a chain of laundries, and she can go to Switzerland every couple of months and have a new supply of claret. And in a roundabout way, it says that a bad environment, where she come from, is a hard environment. A bad environment is almost not quite insurmountable barrier for. And I put a stream of pink and blue, what I call pink and blue swear words, to try and clear them out of my way, to put all the swearing I can think of in one contained sentence, so that it was no longer a problem to me whether I was swearing in a lyric or not. And censorship and record companies give me a hard time, making me self-conscious about something that since everybody does it, I can't see why we can't do it as a poem if we want to, or a lyric. And it was to try and get them all out of the way using a real reason, which is what's written up all around the walls, and so that there was a way out of being this junky, horrible, doomy, inescapable dread of smack. Somehow she had to transcend it, otherwise, although it's a very sad story, Patricia had to not die. She had to somehow survive and be active, and because so many people don't, and I remember lots of people in the early, which is why I've never even seen any of the gear, because I see the people who took it falling apart, and I just ran away from it.
Blockheads.
Oi, oi. Yeah, but we used oi oi on that, and that's been subsequently made into some horrible racist strip. But oi oi was used at West End football ground in the East End before the war as a war cry up the Spurs. I mean, up the Emmers, not the Spurs, the other team, but up the Spurs. Oi oi. And the East End of London is where they beat Mosley in his marches, and the East End of London has always been open racially and not a bad. So Blockheads is about looking out the window at the Oval, where I used to live, on Sunday at the pub called the Cricketers, where these persons with freckled shoulders used to come out with huge hairy freckled shoulders and get into orange and black motor cars and drive them off like, oh my God, all making a terrible racket, and all with ginger hairs on the back of their shoulders, and just in the summer we're all going red and everything. And I used to see them as a group that I really didn't want to mingle particularly, but just something to be avoided. So I wrote a song, and we met. This is when we met Charlie and Norman. And Charlie and Norman came down to do a session with us, to do the demo for this at Alvic Studios in Wimbledon. And drummers very rarely read lyrics. Some good drummers do quite often, to find out where they usually see a chord. So Charlie was marking a lyric sheet to find out where he was going to put his different changes and thinking. And I was singing a guide vocal to him. And we'd run it down a few times just before we were going to record it. I should say Charlie was wearing a pale mauve tank top with white piping with Lois written across the front in handwriting, white tape letters, and a pair of jeans that if you pulled them hard enough, they would occupy the space of about an acre, because they were those square patches, imitation patches, sewn into the material, sign of a post-war boom in cotton or something. Plus a pair of shoes with like a 4-inch Cuban heel with a great cluster of two-tone leather on the front, at deep ends, shoes like dead pigs' noses. And he went, "Here, Ian." I went, "What?" He said, "This geezer's dressed just like me." I went, "Oh, you read the lyric, have you, Charlie?" "Oh dear." Like that. So it was getting a bit lively in there with the clothing stakes. And it's when I realised I changed the last line of the lyric then, because you're all blockheads too, because we're all blockheads too. And we were all, and that's as a direct result of wearing that kind of apparel, that Norman decided the band was called the Blockheads.
That was the day you were christened?
That was the day, not the day we were christened, it sank in, it was on the stiff tour that in fact Norman, "Yeah, we're called the Blockheads, aren't we?" And we all suddenly, "Oh, blimey, yeah, of course we are. Here we go."